Welcome back, everybody, to Be Like Christ for our 5-minute Bible study today in 1 Kings chapter 21. I probably sound a little bit funny again today, still trying to get over this flu or whatever it is. But let's talk about 1 Kings chapter 21. We're going to talk about Naboth and his vineyard today. Maybe this is a story that you know, but if not, that's what the outline's for. Let's talk about when these events happened first. We're still talking about King Ahab and his reign and his interactions with the prophet Elijah, which probably would have taken place somewhere in the window between 920 and 890 BC. Let's go down now to our key historical character section. We're going to talk about Ahab, who is the king of Israel, and the text describes him this way. Not a very good legacy. Quote, "There was none who sold himself to do what was evil in the sight of the Lord like Ahab, whom Jezebel his wife incited. He acted very abominably in going after idols." Jezebel is our second key character. She was Ahab's wicked wife. She was a Sidonian. Then we're going to talk about Naboth. Naboth was a man who owned a vineyard near Ahab's palace. And then finally, the prophet Elijah. He was God's prophet whom Ahab really didn't like because God always used Elijah to rebuke Ahab. Now we can go down to our map. Just one location really to highlight here, and that is the town of Jezreel. That's where Naboth's vineyard was. It is just to the southwest of Endor, not the Endor from Star Wars. Okay, two sections in this chapter. Verses 1 through 16 is first up, the tragedy of Naboth's vineyard. A man named Naboth owned a vineyard in Jezreel near Ahab's palace, and that's pretty much all that we know about him. Ahab wanted this vineyard, though. It must have been a prime piece of real estate. He wanted to make a garden out of it, and so he offered Naboth to either give him a better vineyard or to pay him a fair price for it. Well, Naboth wasn't really interested in selling, and so he told the king, "No, I don't want to sell this because this is my family's land. This is my inheritance. It's been passed down for generations." Ahab was really angry about this. He returned to his house and he told his wife, he sulked about what had happened and how he couldn't get the field or the vineyard that he wanted. Well, Jezebel, being the wicked woman that she was, reassured her husband that he had no reason to be sad. She would make sure that he got the field. She wrote letters to the rulers of Jezreel and had them hire two false witnesses, basically two people to come up with a lie, and they were going to lie about Naboth. They said that Naboth had cursed God and that he had cursed the king. So the men of the city, after hearing this accusation, took Naboth out and killed him. They stoned him. Jezebel then gleefully went back to her husband and told her that Naboth had died somehow. And Ahab didn't ask too many questions, apparently. He didn't really care how it happened. I'm sure he actually knew how it happened. But shortly thereafter, Ahab went to Jezreel to take possession of the vineyard. But God's going to have something to say about this. Verses 17 through 29, Elijah curses Ahab's house for his sin. So God came to Elijah. He told him to go and to meet Ahab at Naboth's vineyard. He was to tell Ahab that God had seen his sin. God was not blind to this. He had taken account of it, and that Ahab was not going to escape God's judgment. Elijah cursed Ahab, and he told him that God was going to destroy his house just like he had the previous kings of Israel that were wicked, like Jeroboam, like Baasha. The same curse is repeated. It's, quote, "Anyone belonging to Ahab who dies in the city, the dog shall eat. And anyone who dies in the open country, the birds of the heavens shall eat." Verse 24. Same curse as Jeroboam and Baasha. Now, Jezebel was also cursed, rightfully so. Elijah said that she was going to be eaten by dogs in Jezreel. We'll see how that plays out in upcoming chapters. But after hearing this condemnation, Ahab had like a moment of repentance. He tore his clothes. He put on sackcloth. Text says that he humbled himself. And God observed this moment of humility. And although he didn't withdraw the curse entirely, he delayed the punishment of Ahab's house until after Ahab's death. It wasn't going to happen immediately, right, but it was going to affect his family moving forward. And so that is 1 Kings chapter 21, the story of Elijah, Naboth, Ahab, and Jezebel. Now for our application. Does God see the oppression of the weak by the powerful? That's the question, and this chapter helps us answer that question. Sometimes it appears like God doesn't see the oppression that powerful, rich people do to those who are below them. But texts like this show us that God is always taking account of the injustices done by the powerful, and they are not going to escape his judgment. Now, the timing of that judgment may differ in certain instances. Sometimes the judgment comes very quickly, like, God's, almost immediate condemnation of Ahab and of Jezebel. Sometimes it's delayed, and God will deal with things later. We can be sure that God will deal with all things at the end of time, when everybody has to give an account for their life. So it might be delayed, but you can be sure that it will come. And in the Old Testament, as we progress through the books, we'll find several condemnations directed towards powerful people who oppress weak people. The Bible presents God as a defender of the weak and as a humbling force who will distribute justice to all abusers of power and influence.